All right, so we're going into today's lesson proper. So when we talk about CVs, workplace productivity, and the rest, it's all geared towards climbing the corporate ladder, isn't it? But not all of us are in that space where we still want to climb the corporate ladder. We finished climbing it. In fact, we have come down and put the ladder down. We are starting to build our own ladder as a business person, right? So, and then you are now you are a professional in facility management, and you are thinking of how to, become grounded as a business person. So today's class is going to be focused on the business of facility management. Many of us will work for 20 odd years and later feel, you know what, salary is not cutting it for me. I want to make the big bucks, right? Some other motivation could also drive it. I want a flexible lifestyle. So I want to start a business. I don't want this regiment of waking up 4 a.m. I mean, I just realized while talking to some people yesterday that most people still have to wake up 3 and 4 a.m. and it's been a long time I experienced that, very long time. If I wake up 3 and 4 a.m. it's because of a major business project or consulting project that's keeping me awake that I have to wake up to work on, not because I have to go and do big traffic to get to some island location before 7 o'clock, So many of us are already at that stage where we are no longer looking at, going to try the corporate ladder again and start applying for work and try to impress bosses and try to do all that. But the opportunities in facility management is staggering and almost mind-boggling. The opportunities are so huge. Now, think about it this way. Every organization will exist in some space or the other. Live, work, operate, transact in some space. All spaces require facility management. And yet, there are very few professionals. In fact, right now, I can tell you that the level of saturation of facility management professionals, people who have been trained and experienced in facility management compared to the stock of properties that needs facility management oversight and management in Nigeria today is going to be less than 2%. Seriously, less than 2%. So on the career side, being in facility management guarantees you work for life, profitable work for life. Now, on the business side, it's even more beautiful because companies used to employ all their core business people and also employ all the FM people all the way down to the cleaning crews. Over time, they started outsourcing. Outsourcing as at today in most developed countries have reached a stage of almost 70, 80%, such that 80% of both private and public enterprises engage vendors and suppliers and providers of services and contractors to handle facility management. They don't do it in-house. Only about 20 to 30% do it in-house. But in developing countries, especially Africa and Nigeria, the level of outsourcing is still between 5 and 6%. What this means is you still have 94% of organizations doing their facilities in-house. Out of that, majority are still using internal services, admin, corporate services, HRO, and all of those logistics titles to run FM admin and the rest, to run FM departments without knowing about FM as a profession, as a department that should run their facilities for them. Some are at the level where they already have a real estate property arm or department that manages directly, but uses a transaction-based approach by calling artisans and technicians on ad hoc basis to come and do work here and there, or even outsource at the services level. So only 5 to 6% have fully moved their FM into an integrated model or a total FM model and outsourced it, so that the person they have in-house as FM is only dealing with strategies. It's only coming up with policies, procedures, it's coming up with budgets, coming up with strategic plans, and so on and so forth, basically to guide the execution and day-to-day operations of the people that have been outsourced to manage it. So the opportunities in the business space for facility management is huge. Just think about it. Every estate that is being built will need to be managed by professional facility managers. Every business, from the very large corporations, oil and gas, banks, property owners, developers of malls and retail centers, office complex, and so on, multi-tenanted environments, massive developments are going on for which business people will be required. But you see, because there is no barrier to entry into facility management, anyone with some business acumen can just do a small Google search, come up with a few ideas, create a proposal or a brochure, and sell FM services and not even meet any kind of opposition or competition, and win large portfolio of FM service contracts to deliver. If you, who has become a professional, trained in facility management, maybe even worked in corporations and service providers, and you have gained experience as a professional FM delivering the services, now is able to learn the business, adopt some business strategies and business concepts, start a business to deliver FM services, you will be far more convincing than those pure business people who don't have professional backing. And that is where we are in Nigeria today. If you put together the top 30 or top 50 FM companies in Nigeria today, you will find 20% of the MDs of those companies coming through the ranks of professionals who studied, who practiced facility management before they entered the business space, and they started, taking advantage of opportunities in the business. So the essence of today's class is to prepare you as professionals to be able to run profitable FM business. So even if you are in paid employment today, you probably have that, that mindset that at certain point in your future, you are going to start a company, and you want to get a sense of what kind of company that should be, right? So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at FM service opportunities. We're going to look at business on its own. We're going to look at how to start a business just on the peripheral surface, and then we'll go into the FM business and itemize some of the opportunities we have in the FM business, types of contracts, market segmentation, and so on and so forth. Okay, so they say every business starts with an idea, right? Every time I get an invitation from somebody to say, "Oh, we know you run the business, or we know you're working. There's something that we have that can help you earn extra income on the side that you can start doing." I said, "No, all the extra income are already inside my business, right?" so I know the main idea. I know exactly what my customers are looking for from me, right? I know what I'm able to deliver right now. If I have the extra latitude, the extra space and resources, instead of me to start dabbling into some whatever cosmetic multi-level marketing you're asking me to come and do some side business, and say, no, I'll add energy efficiency, I'll add digitization, I'll add document management, I'll add help desk. There are so many things in my industry right now that are very profitable, that are still untapped, that I still have not gotten into. I'm doing training, I'm doing consulting, I'm doing FM services today, there's still so much, right? So I don't need to be distracted. I don't need to be distracted. And before you get to this point where you are struggling with distraction of, trying to put your hands into businesses in all directions, you started out with one idea. The idea is, I want to solve a problem for this category of potential clients, right? So that's it. What is that problem they have that I can solve? And then there are opportunities to be taken advantage of. I can just see a major development going up around my area and say, look, I need to go and make a pitch to provide fire protection, energy efficiency monitoring, and so on and so forth. There are different things. I can go for one and they say, oh, that one is taken. I go, oh, what about the next one? Because I know exactly all the lineup of things that they will need. So my idea is to provide solution and then find a category that is lacking recent innovation. There will be no need to reinvent the wheel. That's why you see when we talk about a business idea, we're not talking about a novel business idea. Novel would mean that never been encountered, brand new, concept. You invented this idea. In business and in facility management, you will find that most likely it's been tried again and again, but it's been delivered differently to different customers. That's where you look for your own niche. All right. Your niche could be superior value that have not been provided before, could be lower cost, could be, just something you think these customers still have unsolved that you can solve, okay? And that's where it starts from. And then you'll always hear from all the business experts, oh, go put down your business plan, make sure that it contains that and that information. I did that. I put down a business plan when we started Max-Migold years ago. We had, I spent virtually 6 months, working on a business plan. At some point, I said, okay, you know what? Let me just start doing something, right? And after doing, while I'm doing that, I'll keep fine-tuning my business plan. And that's what happened. Over the years, I've had to revisit the business plan again and again, keep changing and keep changing and keep tweaking, that the original concept and the original idea still exists, but the deployment mechanisms, the service descriptions, the customer targets, and so on and so on, and so many things have been altered over the years. So it becomes a working dynamic document, not something you've done and say, yes, it's done and dusted. Let's just use it as our Bible for this business. That Bible will need to be revised consistently. And then so many businesses run on name. You got the name and you start talking about it. But when somebody tells you, I want to send you money, I want to pay you, I want to do whatever in terms of money transaction, what you do is give them your personal account, right? Because you know that without a business name, a registered business name, or a limited liability company incorporated by the Corporate Affairs Commission, you will not be able to open a bank account. Well, nowadays, they open business bank accounts that are for sole proprietorship. Even sole proprietorship needs to be registered. So it's very important that you register a name. So people try to register their names. Once you get a concept of a name, register it on time, so that someone else will not go and steal the idea and they go and register it, and then you have to battle to find another name for a business. But be careful, because now your tax registration is now tied to your corporate registration. As you are registering a limited liability company today, or even an enterprise, the CAC will typically just register you with FRS, give you your registration number straight away for tax. So which means you are immediately taxable, okay? Unlike before, where you register the company and then you're going to register it for tax separately. So you could even run for a while and then register for tax later and start doing tax compliance. But for now, tax compliance is required. Now, what you can do if you're not ready, if you want to claim the name, save the name, and not immediately start the business, right? You're still doing groundwork and all that, and you are still in paid employment, for example, you're not ready to start dealing with tax issues, is go ahead, register it, but do your annual filing called annual returns. You do annual returns to the CAC, do annual returns to the tax authorities, and let it continue to say pre-operational. We've not started operations, right? So you'll be getting a statement of affairs to submit to the CAC and a pre-operational tax clearance from the FIRS, so that you can keep those years active, even though you're not paying much. You probably will be paying some minimum amount just for a fee to handle those submittals and registrations. Because at some point, you will need to show that you are running the business. Now, but there's a catch to this. While you are doing that, ensure that you have not gone to create a bank account that you are now using for personal transactions or personal activities, pending when the business starts. Because the Federal Inland Revenue Service can actually download that bank account using your BVN and send you a tax bill, whether you filed pre-operational or not. If transaction happens in the name of the company, even if you say it's personal transaction, you will be liable to pay tax. Okay, so it's very important that you understand that. Necessary license and permits, interestingly and good enough for us in facility management, there are no high bar professional licenses required to run a facility management company, whether the main FM company or subsidiary services. I think the only service that you probably will have a barrier to entry is into security, where you need to have some license from the NCDC, I think, Nigerian Civil Defense Corps, who licenses private security outfits. And then they have their stringent requirement. There must be a member of the Nigerian Legion at a certain level or rank in your ownership or board structure and the team that is starting it up. So apart from that, most of the things you do in FM does not require professional licensing and permit, but there are certain statutory licenses and permits that you should have in place. So you can actually start the business, but at the end of the first year, you do all those filings, you begin to file for additional licenses and permits, things that help you stay in business. Okay, so you have the pension law, it affects you, you need to be certified in that area. You have the industrial training fund, ITF, for if you have workers working for you, they need to be, you need to show that you are making contribution to the ITF for their training. And then you have the social insurance trust fund, which is more like your social security. It's an insurance different from your main group life insurance, which gives you pension in the first place, it's like a baseline insurance that the government guarantees. So the government set up that company to handle a certain small percentage of your staff wages as an insurance in case anything happens to those employees. So basically, that's how you tidy up all of those statutory licenses and required permits. And if you want to work for the federal government, for example, as a federal government contractor, you need to meet the requirements of BPP, and that is there must be a tax clearance, there must be a PENCOM certificate, there must be NSITF, trust form, and there must be ITF, industrial training form. They insist, and as soon as you process any of those, it automatically updates in the BPP website, so you can download your interim certificates as a contractor to the government. Then if you want to work in the oil and gas industry, you need to have certain departments for petroleum resources. That's what it used to be called. Now it's NUPRC, that's Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Organization or corporation. What they basically do is they give permits for different types of services in the oil and gas industry, with which you can apply to work in these industries. If you want to work for the international oil and gas organizations, which are like the big 5 that are partly owned by the government and partly owned by multinationals from other countries. These organizations are their procurement is managed under a procurement platform called the Nigerian Procurement Exchange, or NIPEX, right? So in that exchange, that's where they advertise, that's where they publish bids. People fulfill, buy yourself into certain codes, pre-qualify into certain codes for certain types of jobs. So when those jobs come out, you are invited to bid for those jobs, okay? So basically that's how the oil and gas industry works. So you need additional licensing to be able to operate at various levels. Why are these things important? It helps to separate the genuine businesses, professionals from quacks, right? So if you don't want to be seen as a quack, then you want to take some of these licenses or registrations seriously, right? So plan for them as you start your business. Now, the thing about office spaces for virtually all kinds of business is it's not the first thing you go for, right? So if I were to run this again, I remember when we started there, we started with an office space, but I would advise young people or startups today to start with the website, start with your marketing brochures, start with your flyers, start with your website, right? So much of what how you engage with people today is no longer about people coming to your office, because especially in the service industry, people don't really come to your office. If you are the one providing services, you are the one going to them most of the time, right? So let your website stand for you, speak for you, be the information, be your shop front that people will see. I've been invited to bid for jobs, and nobody referred me. It's not a matter of somebody knew somebody. And the last one I went for, the guy said, look, it's not that you're special or fantastic. We just used our internet search technology to come up with the most prominent online. And that's how we picked 15 of you to come and bid for this job, which is fine, right? If I didn't have that website, of course, there's no chance that team will ever know me, right? Because they didn't look like people that were in my network or had people in my network. They came from abroad, set up a company. The government engaged them to build massive infrastructure, and they're looking for FM companies to collaborate with, right? And so all they did was just go online and then find those who are prominent with active websites. So it's important that you do the website, and then as you begin to begin to move in the business, then you can put up an office space, especially when employees starts coming into the business, okay? And then one of the first things you would do in starting a business is have a marketing plan. I know that many of us will push for finance. Everybody you ask, you want to start a business, I need 5 million, I need 10 million to start a business. And I always say, if you don't know how you're going to generate funds, please don't say you need money. Because the money you are going to be asking for, whether it's coming from your savings, from relatives, from loans, from whatever source you're pushing to get that revenue or that income or capital to start the business, it has to be tied to the fact that you know exactly how you can double it, replicate it, increase it. Because so many people start out with, I'll just do this, and that's this amount. I'll just then do this, and that's this amount. Then I'll just do this amount. Everything looks set. Oh, it looks like everything is okay now. So once I just get this money now, I'll just spend this. I'll just pay rent. I'll just, pay the website guy. I'll just hire 2 employees. I'll just set up an office and put them there. Then I'll just, we just go ahead like Investor Sabino's thinking about how we're going to spend until we've finished spending and start waiting for the revenue. Your marketing plan is one of the first plans you need to have in place. Your marketing plan requires you to know who you are targeting. Where are they right now? Where are they right now? How can I reach them? What exactly are the issues they are having that requires my intervention? And now that I know all of those, I've documented them, what are my action plans? And what kind of milestones and targets should I achieve in certain periods of milestones? That's how a business plan should be developed. That's how that marketing plan component of the business plan should be developed. It should show a correlation between how you intend to be making money with how much you need and when you need it. Okay. So when you hear people say things like, when you're trying to start a business, finance is not the first thing, finance is not the main thing, finance is not the only thing. I tend to agree, because many of us put finance in front, seek the funding, we get the funding, we don't have a clue how to turn that money into self-generating revenue or income that can be profitable for the money, right? And so even if you do have a savings, able to source a funding from debt or equity or from any other kind of goodwill that you were able to raise money, crowdfunding or whatever, do not set about to spend up everything that you have. In fact, use the 25, 25, 50 approach. If you have 10 million for the business, 2.5 million is what you will plan everything around. Because in 95% of the scenarios, the first effort will fail. You don't want to put in your 10 million in, it fails, and you are out down and out, right? So you want to put it 2.5. You want to push with a perfect plan that works around making sure I can generate revenue based on that 25% that I've put in. That 25% for me right now is my 100%. By the time I make operational losses, I do my root cause analysis and I itemize where my mistakes have been, right? By the time I start out trying to acquire customers, and sometimes I might even deliberately take some losses just to put some customers, because really, if you don't have selling customers in your pool, it is difficult to convince other customers to able give you their job. It's like a ladder. You want to climb on the ladder, but there are no steps in the first and second. Step starts from the third, right? So you need to have a way to leverage your position to get to that third, right? That's exactly how it works. You need to have some customers. And the first customers you may have may be the ones you are providing the services for free. So that you can use them for the storyboarding. You can use them for the content development. You can use pictures of their sites to create your website, and uniform staff actually working for you on that client side, even though that client is not paying you or not paying you commensurately. You are doing it for business development. They're paying you costs. They're paying you even at a small loss, but you are doing it for business development. The next clients that comes on board will be paying you a premium because you have a history of a satisfied client. And that's something that you need to think about when looking at that beginning effort. You need to have that inroad, that foot in the door strategy that gives you an opening to assess bigger clients as well. So you can read up on all of those content about business plans. The next concept I would like to talk about is stress a little bit more on the need to know who your customers are, what they have as issues, and how you will get to them. And once you are able to answer those questions, don't just launch a business to solve a problem that you have not tested whether they will buy. We have done several market surveys where we reached out to potential clients and say, are you in this category, are you in that category? Just basic introductory questions, and we get some feedback. What issues are you having in this area and that area? We'll get some feedback. If you have solutions like this and like this, is this something you would like to engage with? We'll get some feedback. And then if these solutions were to come to you today, how much, try to think about how you can price, how much will you be willing to pay? Put some ranges here and there. Use that to test the market, because many times we see people just create business plans with figures in their heads. They are overly optimistic of the industry and the opportunities, and then they shoot and then they land, they crash land. So it's important to investigate that potential market base and know exactly what is possible, so you can know how to approach the market. Okay. We talked about introduce the concept of registering your business, but let's look at the categories. Business registration in Nigeria. You have the business name. Business name is basically a name that's registered. It's not an entity, so it's not a standalone entity. It's like your trading name. So if I as Paul Erubami had registered Max-Migold Limited, not limited, as a business, it would have been Max-Migold Enterprises, Ventures, whatever other appendages can go with that name. But that Max-Migold would have been a second name for Paul Erubami. So when you see Max-Migold, you know that this is Paul Erubami's business, right? But that Max-Migold will not be a standalone entity. It cannot be identified as itself. Max-Migold cannot do anything. It's Paul Erubami that does everything. That's the difference between a business name registration and a private limited liability company. A private limited company is now an entity on its own, can now be sued, and it can sue, can own property on its own name, can stand distinct and separate from me, the founder, and all the other directors and shareholders. We have limits to the extent to which we can be the liability of that company can be applied to us. So that's why it's possible for a company to go bust and the owners and the promoters will still be okay, because the entity itself existed. It can owe, it can be owed, right? So some companies will prefer to do businesses with entities that are limited, right? Because they see that as superior, they see that as a formidable force to go into an engagement or an agreement with, instead of an individual, as in the case of a business name. Now, in the past, it used to be that the business name is a sole proprietor, right? So one person wants to start a business, you have to go and start a business name, right? So all these consultants, estate surveyors and valuers, NIQS, engineering people starting consulting outfits, we just, put, Paul Erubami and Sons, for example, and say that's my business name. So it was just like that. So just a sole thing. And if you want to start a limited liability in the past, you have to have between 2 and 50 people who are going to be co-owners. It can't even be a one-man show. Now that has been reversed. You can have a business name owned by 2 people. You can have a limited liability company now owned by 1 person, 1 shareholder, 1 director, 1 owner. Okay, so that's in the new Finance Act 2020. So that's been implemented by the Corporate Affairs Commission. And then you have the public limited company. Public limited company is those ones that you publicly trade their shares in the stock exchange. It's not a private company, it's a public company. The rules that apply to public companies are different. Because if you are an operator of a private company, there's a lot you can do. You have powers to a lot of things. You can control a lot. You are not putting the public trust. You are not able to abuse the public trust because of the number of people that you can bring on board as members of your company. But in a public limited company, you can have hundreds, thousands, even millions of members. And a few operators will now have to be operating like public servants, because basically your business is owned by the public. So the rules that govern public limited companies are more stringent. You must declare virtually every action to the board and to the stock exchange and to the Securities and Exchange Commission and so on and so forth. That's the key difference between the private limited and the public limited. And then you have the company limited by guarantee. Company limited by guarantee is mostly is similar to the incorporated trustee, but these are organizations that are set up as non-profits, set up as NGOs, set up as social impact organization. They are set up with a different set of rules, because whoever is promoting or founding them is not expected to take money from them as his own personal property. The properties owned by companies limited by guarantees and incorporated trustees are actually owned by those social enterprises and regulated by the government. If you set up a charity, and an orphanage home, a church, or any of those kind of organization, you need to know the categories that it's coming under. You cannot enrich yourself with resources from this. Of course, you can pay your expenses for working for these corporations, but you cannot declare profits and put it in your pocket. There could be surplus that could be put back into the organization, but never shared as shares, dividends to shareholders like you would do in a public limited company or in a private limited company. Okay. And then you have the unlimited company. Unlimited company is just like a private limited company or a public limited company, but the liability is unlimited. What this means is that the promoters and the owners are obliged. They are sticking their muzzles out to say, no matter what we do with this business, we would absorb all liability, right? So what it means is that the business cannot misbehave and go bust or go under, and people will start crying out. They know we, the promoters and the owners, will stand by this company and have unlimited level of liability. What that also means for them is that they have to have very tight, stringent corporate governance rules to ensure that one person does not abuse that opportunity. And there are very few companies that have gone through this route of unlimited. Registration nowadays for our businesses in Nigeria is pretty straightforward. You can just go online and do it. CAC, just go to CAC and get it done. Everything is there, right? So it's no longer that process of getting a lawyer, go get an accountant. You have to fill this form and fill that form. No, I can sit on my desk and create 10 limited liability companies now, and within the next 2 hours, I'll get everything finished. That's how simple it is right now. All right. Just know what objects you want to put in the memorandum and articles of association. The template is there. Just say we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, and the standard template can even be adopted from the CAMA. That is the law that sets up a corporate organization. You can just adopt the memorandum and article of association standard template, and then you populate it with the things you want to be doing as a business, and then you get your registration done, and you can go pick up your certificates from the CAC office. I'm not sure they are emailing it or dispatching it to you these days. You still have to get a printout and go and meet them and ask for your certificate. Yes, I think they do. They have a portal, the CAC portal. You can actually download your certificates. I've downloaded certificates from there recently. I just paid a fee. I think it was 5,000 naira to be able to get that permission to download all my documentation afresh. All right, so we talked about most of these legal and regulatory compliance. Read them up. They are important. They're important if you want to grow the business, okay? Because if you stay as an enterprise at a low level and just keep operating at that level, you probably won't be able to achieve so much in terms of growth, reputation, and ability to bid in certain projects. It will be difficult. And then think about professional memberships. It's very important. Sometimes we take it for granted, to go and pay 100K as a professional body member, corporate member. It may sound like an overkill for a small company, but I think it pays a lot, because when you send in a proposal or you prepare your brochure, and you don't have much experience, right? That professional body's membership, that corporate certificate, will give the potential client that feeling that you are part of a broader network, right? Which means that you are learning and you are networking with people who are good at the job. And for them to have given you their membership certificate, it means that they recognize you as someone who works in this industry. That can actually propel you, so don't take this for granted as well. All right, so let's look at a few business success principles. You have to have an entrepreneurial mindset. Many people have done working as employees all their careers. They're not prepared for the business world. But when something happens to dislocate them from their employment, they try to rush into business, thinking that there's some solace there. If you never served in the organizations where you are serving as if that business was your own, you are coming to fall face flat on the ground when you start your own business. If you have not worked as an entrepreneur within that organization, owning your bit of the work and doing it with a passion that brings you not just satisfaction, but actually brings you extra reward and extra benefits for participating in those tasks, you will not be able to. You must be able to connect inputs versus outputs, know the difference and what makes up profit for the organization. If you've not been actively making decisions around how to save costs, how to generate revenue, how to retain customers, and doing this with all your heart, mind, and strength, you probably aren't ready for a business. Not everybody can start a business. So those who have been very lackadaisical in their work, or maybe very effective, but not commercially minded, some people are just gullible, right? Somebody can just tell you, put 50,000 into MMM, and then before you sleep and wake, that money will become 150. You're not entrepreneurial, you're a gambler, right? So better go to the casinos because that's not entrepreneurial mindset. Entrepreneur will ask questions like, what can they do with 50K that overnight it can become 150? It will probe that question deep enough to know it's not possible, right? So that's the kind of mindset you need. The mindset that things don't happen magically, the mindset that efforts are required, the mindset that everything must add up before you can progress with it. You must be able to plan, know how much input and how much revenue you should expect for every action that you invest upon. And then you have to, like you said, think about the users, potential users, and then dig into them to see what opportunities exist there. There's this thing about finding what you love, your passion when it comes to business, right? Now, the way I see it is love what you choose to do, because if you don't love it, you will fail at it. And if you can't love it, stop it. Because even if it is making you money now, you will not be sustainable about your approach in running that business. That's why you must wake up with excitement to it. Okay? So if you come up with an idea and you need to start this business, do not see it as something that is a burden. You don't have any choice. You just have to do this because your life depends on it. No, you must turn that emotion into a passion deliberately and push the business to success. Fiscal discipline. You need to separate you from the business, even if it's an enterprise, a business name you are running. If the business needs to get an investment and you take from your saving, from a loan you took personally, and you put it into the business, record it as business, I just gave you a loan. When the business makes money, tell yourself it is not your money. That is the business money. Because I loan money to the business and I work in the business will need to pay me back that money I loaned to it. So I'm waiting for the time when the business can start paying instrumentally or pay me the whole thing, right? That is a different transaction from what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis on the business. I'm working in the business, it means that my time needs to be paid for. The business and I, which is me and myself, need to negotiate and agree on a reasonable amount that I should earn for my time in building the business. Even if later, after taking my salary or pay from the business, I still now need to borrow my money to the business, it is another fresh loan. But first, I earned my money back from the business and I kept it in a place where I can retrieve it and loan back to the business. So the business loan, my loan to the business can keep increasing, but the business can keep paying me my salary on a month-to-month basis. That way, the money I have to spend on myself, on my family, my accommodation, my transport, and all that, not business related now, but my own life or my personal activities, will come from my own money, not from the business money. Okay? So don't try to mix things up. So even if you have a 3-bedroom house and you are using one room there as the business premise, you set up the whole office in there, let that business pay a share of the rent. So when it's time to pay your rent, you take 1/3, if it's a 3-bedroom house, 1/3 of that money from the business, and the business will record it as rent for one room, right? While you take from your own savings and from your own salary you've earned and add to it and pay the rent for the house. So that's how to have fiscal discipline. So that if for any reason you find yourself in a situation where you now need to borrow money from the business, treat it the same way you treated loaning money to the business. You borrow the money and make a note to ensure that you pay the money back to the business. The account must always balance. And then have a kitchen cabinet of advisors, people that are in business, doing one. They don't have to be very big. I made this mistake earlier on in my business where I thought I had this business mogul, big guy who has businesses across Africa and Europe and Asia. And I felt since he was close to me, let me make him my mentor and advisor. But he was just too busy. He didn't have the time, right? So I got into an EDC program from Lagos Business School, and then I had a classmates, I had lecturers and people who taught different things about running businesses, and then I created some relationships from there. And then the places where I worked, I'd worked as if it was mine. So I had mentors from my previous organization where I can also tap, learn lessons from my own experiences with them, from further engagements, and from looking at them and what they are doing from far. That is something that you need. Do not make for yourself an advisor who has not succeeded in something. Like trying to get marriage advice from people who don't understand, who have never been married, or who married and got divorced. They can't give you marriage advice, right? That's how businesses are. If somebody is doing, even if it's a small business, someone can be doing a small business and you are seeing how that business is growing. That business may not even be related to your own professional business, but the business can teach you, that person can teach you, things like how to manage creditors, how to manage debtors, how to minimize costs, and so on, and how to make do, improvise for different scenarios. And you can learn a lot from those kind of mentors and advisors. And then select a brand, make a design, come up with something. Your design should come out of an idea. So the idea that started you up should be what your brand is defined as. So when you look at the Max-Migold brand, for example, what comes to mind? We say maximizing your potential. That's our tagline right from the onset. Maximizing your potential. We want to be the top consultants in this industry. We want to be top trainers in this industry. We want to make people efficient and effective. So all of our consultancy is related to value creation, cost reduction, sustainability, and all that. So that's what we wanted. So what do? We know that sustainability is driven by the color green, and gold is value. Gold is priceless, isn't it? So we picked those two colors and then we put it together in the brand. And then what should the logo look like? We want to set sail, we want to lift off, we want to fly, we want to take flights. We want to start from somewhere and then soar, right? But we could easily have gone for a bird. We said, no, let's do something that looks like a bird that's taking off, right? So these are the ideas that formed the Max and the Migold. And so sometimes you will see somebody write the name as Max-Migold without the hyphen. I'll say, no. The maximizing has to stand on its own. And my gold, which is emphasis on value creation and value preservation, as known, historically and age long, has to stand on its own. So this has been cultivated and built over time. And just looking at this, you probably won't be able to link it to any particular person. If you see me on the street as, MD of Max-Migold, you probably think I was appointed, right? Of course, I was appointed. I'm the owner, I'm the founder, and the brand architect. But at some point, when I retire and step out, some other members of the team and other directors will step in and lead this company on. It doesn't have to carry my name, right? So having a defined brand is very helpful because it makes the organization bigger than you. You can step aside anytime and the organization will just move on and you don't have to be there, right? So whoever owns shares in the business will keep getting their dividends and the business will keep driving on and on. Identify the high priority actions that help you fulfill the needs of your clients. Delegate low priority things out to others. It's not everything you need to do by yourself. The things that are simplistic, things that others can do. Take, for example, you've come up with some concept, you've written, and then you now start typing. Get someone else to type, if not a secret, right? and then there are so many things you can look at and compare notes. Look at the things you have to deal with. Which ones can someone else do, and which ones must you do? Once you separate those, focus on the one you must do and outsource the ones others must do. We had a training in the office today, and the facilitator was telling my team, some people will have very sophisticated jobs, big projects on their head, and they will wake up on a Saturday morning when there's so much work to do, and they'll have to clean the house and have to wash their clothes, have to prepare the meals for the week, and so on and so forth. It's all nice, but can someone else handle some of those tasks so you can focus on the things that are bigger and more important to you? Those are some of the things that you look at when you're trying to delegate. Delegate as much as would not be too critical, that will not affect your business. Structure your business in such a way that it maximizes its profit. Profit and cash flow is everything. I would rather give a free service than give service for credit. I would rather agree to half the price than to say, pay half price and owe me the other half later. Because it creates false expectations, false hopes, false plans. And in many cases, I may not even be able to recover that. So my books will look good, but I don't have the funds in my hands. And that's something that you need to watch out for, right? So structure in such a way that you're always liquid, there's always cash to meet with your obligations, at least at the minimum level. And then structure in such a way that your inputs, your income, what comes into you versus what you put into it for that direct expenses has a margin. That's where profitability comes in. And that your overhead, general expenses that covers for the whole business, your IT, internet, website, transport, salaries for this and that, they don't overwhelm that margin. So you must always watch that the margin is sufficient to take care of your overhead. If your overhead is going to overwhelm the margin, what do? You trim down the overhead or increase the margin. But increasing the margin affects the customers. So how far can you increase the margin, which affects your total price you're going to publish to the customer, that will not make the customer run away, because if it runs away, you're out of business, isn't it? So you watch that balancing act carefully and ensure that you are able to make the margin that covers your overhead continuously. Save a portion of your profits and build a cushion of liquidity. Invest a portion of your money and make sure your money is working for you and you're not working all of your life, right? So if you are running, I run a training outfit, for example, and I know that very soon I'm going to have an online, I've already had an online training platform for some time. I'm going to expand it and have multiple online programs that people can be buying and running their own studies, and I'll just be getting alerts from the back end, so that I don't have to be in class every day before I can earn a dime, right? So those are some of the things we're looking at. Communicate the products in the values and needs of your employees and clients. People should understand exactly your value proposition. Excellent customer service cannot be overemphasized. Focus, especially when you are starting out. Don't have annoying customers. Don't have people that you are pissing off because you think they're not adding value to you. They're trying to make you have losses and all that, right? Try to accommodate as many as possible and build a relationship that extracts from them something you can use to sell yourself. Sometimes a customer can push you at some point. You know that this customer wants to use your head, like you say, to get cheap labor or cheap service or get cheap work done. No problem. Go back and re-strategize. Come back and say, you know what? I'll give it to you at that price, but this is what I want to put down in a video testimonial for me, because I will need money to, I'll need other customers to pay for you what I'm giving you for free today. So write testimonial, Madam Oga, please review it and give me that testimonial so I can use to get more business. I'll work for you. I can even work for you for free if you keep hyping me so that others can buy my service. So that's like barter. That's like trade by barter, right? So I'm actually doing the service for you, and I'm getting something that helps me to earn money to cover my costs, from you as well. Cash position and good banking relationship. This is also very important. That whole principle of other people's money, right? Where you can leverage on debts, at certain levels to do certain things. If you have to deliver on a project and you need money to do it and you don't have the banking relationship to do it, my dear, that puts you in bad light before that time. Make sure you expand the vision. Your vision should not be static. I know quite a few businesses that will just say, you know what, I want it just this much. I don't want any more than this, right? But even if you don't want to grow big or become a large conglomerate and have so much money, which I mean, people want so much money, but if you're one of those who don't want so much money, then at least keep refining the vision to reflect the changing times, because you can be in that one spot thinking that you are very secure. You don't want to look out, you don't want to expand, and the customer taste and customer preferences will change. And because you don't want more, you may end up having nothing, because they will all move to people who are innovating. Put energy into innovation and research. It will save you and your business eventually. All right, so the FM landscape. Who are those key players? Which companies have outsourced their FM? What's your assessment of the market? I want us to have a discussion on this. You can unmute your mic and speak. Who are the key players? We're looking at service providers, companies who are providing FM services. Which companies have outsourced their FMs? We're looking at demand organizations that have outsourced their portfolios to facility managers. And then we can now discuss the last item. What's your assessment? So you can unmute, raise your hand. Let me see who is going to speak. We want to pick out some industry players in these first two categories that you're familiar with. It could be your company, it could be another company you are familiar with, where you have applied before, where you have interviewed with, and so on and so forth. Please, let's hear. Let me engage with you on this one. Key players. Whose hand is up? I hope you didn't just slip up when I was talking.
No, sir.
No, sir.
So you must know some FM
We are
companies.
with
So
you.
let's hear. You must know some FM companies. Let's hear from you. Apart from research I do, with my team and engagements and, public events like our conferences and my training program that gives me some company names. It's in class like this. I know some companies are even into FM. There are some companies that you hear their names and you won't even know that they are into facility management. You just think that they are one IT company until you now, find out that these guys are actually managing one massive high-rise or 2 or 3 projects or even 10 projects across the country before you now know that, oh boy, they don't have the name of the FM, but they have all the jobs of the FM, right? So let's pop out the names of FM companies we are familiar with that we know, okay? Michael.
I know 2 around me here.
Okay.
I know Alpha Med.
Yes.
They're one of their staff always work with us in where I work. Okay. And I know ETCO FM.
Exactly.
They are the one overseeing CBN facility.
Fantastic. And a company like ETCO, when they came in, they were just mechanical, electrical, right? They help to do installations and maintenance of electrical and mechanical systems, right? But now they now have full FM, and they're into it. And for some of you probably are not familiar with some companies like Julius Berger, who are known for being big in construction. They're also one of the biggest FM companies, because when some of these companies go into FM, they go into it very silently. They start by taking on the portfolios that they build, which sometimes can be huge. While you are busy trying to chase them to give you contracts to manage facilities for them, or to link you up with their clients to manage facilities, you don't know that you are a competitor with them. So you don't even know that you are sending your proposal to somebody who is going to just shred it because you are a competitor to him when it comes to the FM. So that's why we need to have this brainstorming session. More, please. I've only had 2, and I've added 1, so we can add like 25 more.
We have AM facility.
That's the one I was mentioned before. Yes.
About Provas.
There's Provas, yes. There's Bro. Now you see a company like Bro. Bro came in as a property management company, right? So over time, in fact, in some countries across Africa, Bro doesn't do anything facilities, but in some countries like Nigeria, they see the opportunity in FM, and then they have tapped into it, created an FM department, and they're managing massive FM portfolios for their clients. Yes, so that's noteworthy. Yes?
Yes. Churchgate.
Fantastic. You see, a company like Churchgate is a property owner, right? And they don't outsource their FM, which means they are managing their own property, okay? And for an organization like that, it's also easy for them to spin off that FM department and even start offering FM services to other organizations. There are some companies that have started doing this. Take a case in point is the property owners of UBA. What's the name of this company now? Who can remember the company that manages properties for UBA? It's part of their group. I'll remember. Well, let's just move on. Then you have companies like UPDC and Odua Properties.
Kappa and Dabato.
Kappa and Dabato is a construction company. I'm not aware that they are now into FM.
Yes.
We have Briscoe Properties Limited.
Yes, I know Briscoe. Come again. Please talking about Kappa and Dabato. You say they manage properties.
Close that door and leave it.
Yes, they've started managing properties now.
Fantastic.
Since just the same way Beja is doing. Kappa has also
Fantastic.
completed the same thing.
Fantastic. So you can
We
see
have-
where you can see where your competition can be coming from. So why you think that let's go and form alliance with construction companies so that we can they can now take us on board to become the FM service provider. Before you blink, they've all started into FM, and this is a testimonial to the opportunities in FM. When you build, you make your margin, you chop it and it's gone. Once you take on FM, it's for life. You're chopping forever. That's exactly why they don't want to leave it. That's why you're all getting involved in it. So you should get smarter and think about the kind of positioning you can make to decide who you can partner with or who you can apply to for FM services. Any more?
We have
Yes,
global
Eliaza Group.
resources, WSP.
Yes,
We have
that's
global resources.
Global PFI, that's Global Property and Facility Management.
Yes, and WSP.
We have Leadway Properties on Investments.
WSP is a defunct company now. I don't think they are still existing. Yes, Leadway Property. Leadway is a spin-off from the Leadway Group. Okay, yes, go on.
James Kubik.
We have a gold maintenance.
James Kubik is also a spin-off from the James Kubik Group, which used to be an architectural firm, right? Now having a James Kubik FM. Very good. And then somebody said eco maintenance, right? Yes, eco maintenance.
What does CBRE? What does CBRE?
Yes. CBRE is a global property management group that also has had a foothold. So how they came to Nigeria, most of those multinationals like CBRE, GLL, and then Sable, for example. In case of Sable came into Nigeria and bought into Rapids FM. So you now have Sable Rapids. So that's a full-fledged FM company that represents the Sable Global. Sable is the biggest FM company in Africa, right? So, but Sable Rapids is not the biggest FM company in Nigeria today. They are still building their portfolio. But Sable is really massive across Africa. Bigger than anything Brawl and the rest are doing across the continent. But JLL and CBRE, for example, they win global contracts. So they can win a contract for a massive multinational to manage their properties all over the world. So when they go to a country like Nigeria, they can decide whether they want to buy into an entity, set up an entity, or sublet that piece of work to another FM company, right? So this is an opportunity for us too, when coming up as small FM companies, to look into our networks for organizations where they are trying to sublet items of work, certain aspects of the global contract that we can pitch in and deliver for them. Okay. All right. Now, let's go to the second one. Companies that have outsourced their FM.
MTN.
Yeah. So MTN has basically gone the two sides of the coin in outsourcing. They first of all came out with a big IFM contract where they outsourced everything. Somehow they got their fingers burnt, and then they pulled back in, and they took all the services back in, and then they now package just management, right? And so they outsource management. And I think they're having fun with it because they're renewing now, and they're still building along the same line of just management, right? So we're going to look at these models in a bit. Anyone else? Go ahead.
We have General Electric.
GE, yes.
Sure.
Who is GE contracting with? Who knows?
We are now contracting with the CBRE. Now
exactly. That's an example of a global contract, right? So because CBRE is probably taking GE Pan-African, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, or globally, right? So for such organizations, if CBRE is not interested in setting up an entity in Nigeria, they would have partnered with a small company to manage their Nigerian businesses. But in some cases, they might find it profitable enough to set up an entity, have a local MD, and then run their services to their clients, which means they will now mandate that MD to look for other clients and add to the portfolio in Nigeria. Okay. So think of the banks. Let's say sector by sector. Think of the banks. Which banks do you know that have outsourced?
That Standard Chartered, they outsource their FM.
Standard Chartered actually has a global outsourcing strategy that affects Nigeria, and they don't look back on it. Yes, that's one. Nigerian banks that you know.
Maybe Stanbic.
No way.
GTB,
I think
No
I
way.
know.
GTB.
I think I know
They
an
are not
FM.
outsourced. They are not outsourced.
Okay.
Nigerian banks are so backwards in that part of outsourcing. They keep everything in house. It's terrible. So let's pray that at some point they'll begin to outsource more. They do all those packets of jobs here and there. They have hundreds of contractors. They have FM teams in house that are supervising tons and tons of activities. But outsourcing of management means packaging everything out and only having strategists in the FM department in the organization. I doubt if we have any bank that has gotten to that level yet, apart from those that have the global multinational banks that have the global outsourcing strategy affecting Nigeria, like Citibank, Standard Chartered. One would have expected Stanbic IBTC, but you know, the subsidiary that the Stanbic IBTC in Nigeria is like a Nigerian bank, since it formed as partnership with the Nigerian business. So in essence, the banks have not been very forthcoming in outsourcing.
I just wanted to mention that it may be security implication. Maybe they are trying to be cautious.
Facility management, nah, that's overrated, because all foreign banks are outsourced in their facility management. All. So think of the biggest banks in the world: HSBC, Standard Chartered, Citi. Just name them all over the world. They're all outsourced in their facility management. So why is Nigerian bank now going to be the one that has security threats for having the contractor managing their support services? In fact, you can actually manage facility management outside your network. The FM team and all their IT can be completely removed from your network and it will be effective. So I doubt if that's the case, but I think it's an evolutionary process. Oil and gas is largely outsourced, Nigeria oil and gas companies, and mostly because they are influenced by the multinational organizations. Telecoms as well are mostly outsourced because they're also influenced by the multinational influence. So if you look at that analysis I gave you at the beginning, where I said 80% companies have outsourced globally, but here we are doing 5-6%. You can tell the difference. So any of those companies that are coming from abroad to come and set up branches here will most likely drive their outsource strategy, unlike those who have businesses from here. Okay. All right, thanks for that discussion.
They don't divide them or they don't divide them. It's okay. What?
Admin, please meet everybody.
Your project. Don't shit me because you like to shit.
Mute, oh, we are continuing. All right, thank you. I hope you are hearing my audio. Okay, I think you should be. I'm not muted. All right, thank you. All right, so I've given you my assessment of the markets. The opportunities are very much there. It's not been tapped. It's not been tapped. We can have all of us having 2 billion in turnover as FM contractors today, and the market will still be untapped because there's huge opportunity. And to think of it, the amount of money going through the FM industry, not in the hands of FM professionals, is ridiculously high. The Nigerian FM industry should be doing close to 500 billion naira a year as outsourced revenue to FM companies, but largely untapped. I mean, a few years ago, 3 years ago to be precise, a foreign player, FM company came into Nigeria, wanted to set up office in Nigeria, but instead of starting from scratch, wanted to buy up 1 or 2 FM companies so that we can have some track record and so on and so forth. And they put a $50 million tag and say, we want to put together companies that make up $50 million in value so that we can do a $50 million investment. We spent almost 8 months, investigated the top 10 FM companies. We couldn't find a combination that would justify $50 million as their value. So it was really poor. And so they stepped back and said, Nigeria is not mature yet for FM. So let's keep working, keep being professional, keep pushing the business drive, and hopefully at some point, the corporate world in Nigeria will respond to FM and begin to outsource. But what are the biggest trends driving FM growth globally? Economic and regulatory developments. Companies are being squeezed for profit, and so they want smart people to manage their facilities. Facilities is a big spender, right? So you need to just find a way to cut the cost and have professionals use their smartness and their skills to manage it. And then there's a lot of risk in facilities as well. People could suffer all kinds of hurt and loss from the buildings that we manage. So this health and safety regulations is making companies to just outsource, get others to do it. And then, of course, there is more and more interest in outsourcing and FM integration, where instead of dealing with landscaping as a contract, cleaning as a contract, integration, and just get someone else to handle that. And then the international contract that is now foiling multinational companies setting up branches across countries they never thought they would ever go to, because a contract they have picked up now just shows up that has business or branches in certain countries. So they start scrambling to look for local partners to work with. And then, of course, cost is the biggest aspect of what's driving the outsourcing, because the moment you outsource, you probably think, oh, I'm giving it to a middleman, right? So there'll be a middleman's profit. But that middleman gets it done cheaper and faster and better because he's a professional in that field. This is really what he does as his core. And he can transfer part of that savings to you because of true negotiation. And then there are also value-added services, economic, environmental, economic impact, social impact of sustainability. When you outsource to people who are experts, who have the right certifications that you can use to, justify your impact in these areas. The scope of FM services can be very broad, so let's not restrict our mind to that. I also take up the FM of the whole facility. I can be doing just cleaning, just electrical, just plumbing, just HVAC, just any aspect of the FM services. And what's been happening lately, extension of that market assessment, is some companies come in as cleaning. And I think I like this strategy very well. They come in as cleaning. And over time, they begin to assist with a few maintenance tasks, handle some management, bring in some staff to help handle certain tasks. And before long, they become a bidder in the bidding for the whole FM, which they are supposed to be a subcontractor to. They can win it. And many companies have become really big with this. And something I find intriguing is that cleaning generates what I call cash flow, right? So it generates cash flow. People pay. Cleaning is one of the most easily commoditized aspect of FM. So they just know that those cleaners, materials, blah, 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 this is the amount, and you just keep getting that money on a monthly basis. So they can easily have the muscle, that the financial muscle that the FM company may not even have to get all those licenses, permits, all those qualifying documentation to qualify as an FM company, all right? And so don't stick to yourself to thinking if I don't get the whole services as a bundle, I cannot provide FM services. So everything you see here can be taken as one piece of work or the other, just to support an organization's success. You can make money, and you can have that as an inroad into all the other services that can become bundled. And then in terms of the industry, all kinds of every industry where they own property, it's a client, it's a potential client, right? So for me, I'll say they must have property, they must have people, right? So if they have people will work from somewhere, right? Space is involved. And if they have property, whether they own it or rent it, they are my clients. So you can go for a total FM contract where everything is bundled together for you in one piece of work. The FM company is in charge of everything. That means that the two elements of a contract, which are the management and the services. The services are the artisans, the cleaning, the maintenance people, the security, and all of those are the foot soldiers that get the job done, right? Then the management is the supervision, the coordination, the budgeting, and all of those procurement that goes with it. So if a client decides to hold on to the services and say, I will have all these vendors as my contractors, but you will provide management oversight. I don't know how to guide them. I don't know how to scrutinize them. I don't know how to supervise them. You will provide management over them and report to me. So I pay you for management and pay them for services, right? That is one approach of integrated FM services. You have that integrated outlook over all the services. Another approach to integrated services is, I will give you the whole contract to manage. You go and outsource to the service providers. So employ your security company, cleaning companies, plumbing companies, and all that, outsource to them. So you hold on to a warehouse of one contract that you break into multiple subcontracts that you award out. So it's also an integrated FM approach because you are using corporate entities to provide service for you and you're supervising them. You have control over them. Now, but if the client says both the services and the management bundled together and given to you, and you are not ready to outsource any part of it, you are going to employ workers, buy material directly, what you are doing is called total facility management. In TFM, you are directly providing management and services in an integrated approach. And so single service contracts are when you have specialist providers like the elevator guys, the electrical transformer guys who does specialist services, and then you have the outpass team where you put out a certain activity for consultants or certain specialist companies, but they are providing management, but the management is more management support. I'm sure we have done most of these contracting types in the FM organizations class. All right, so let me hear your questions. I think this is pretty much it for the lesson. The other items are just describing most of the things I've talked about. So let's hear your questions about this. Questions, comments, contributions. Adiola, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for the class. So my question is, if I want to start my own company, can I decide that I can pick some certain services, like I can say I want to do HSE, I can do space management and cleaning, and say those are the packages I want to start with?
Yes, yes.
I can start like that.
Yes, that's fantastic.
Okay.
That's
okay,
fantastic.
then, so like an entry point, like as an entry point to start, can I start as saying, okay, what I want to do is like a single contract where I'm just focusing on doing one thing. Is that a good point to start from?
Okay, yes. So the thing is this, we said the idea, the potential customers, right? So you must have seen an opportunity that you want to provide a solution for, right? So if that opportunity is a single service, start with it. If it is a bundled service, start with it. I like teaching that you should look out for the problem, the opportunities, the needs in potential clients. So you investigate clients, investigate market segments, and see a specific niche you can pitch into. Because I won't advise you to just come up with this package and start advertising without testing the market first, whether they even need it, whether they even outsource that particular item, you don't even know, right? So that's why I say you start by looking at the customer. For example, if you make it a point of duty that you want to visit and speak with 200 estates in the Lekki Axis, for example, in a 6-month period, you do a research on them, you develop some content in terms of contact details, you start with phone calls and start, getting to know who knows who in the estate committees and developers management, and start getting invited to the estate to just visit and see how the management is going, start networking with those who are managing at that point. You are creating a database of information that can form a solid opinion on what the need can be. You know that you can go into an estate, an FM company is already there, right? They didn't know you basically came in to just ask questions, do some research, do some market survey in different areas. You find that there's something that they are not able to do, they don't want to do, that you can bring through them to that estate. So always focus on that customer end first, so that the demand has to be generated before you can start generating the supply, which is the solution, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Abdul.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome.
Firstly, let me start with the tax aspect. You said we shouldn't run, like some of us who have opened some company down for a while, not been running.
Yeah.
We said we should file our tax report yearly.
Yes. It's called pre-operational tax reports.
Okay. Will not be charged.
Not a reasonable fee, not a substantial amount, just minimal.
Okay.
Just basically administrative cost of doing that. If you file those ones, I keep saying you've not started, keep doing it every year, there'll be no penalty.
Okay.
But make sure that if you open bank accounts in those entities' names.
Yes, I've opened accounts.
But don't run money in those accounts. If you run money in those accounts, they'll be subject to VAT.
Wow.
And you cannot claim pre-operational when those accounts are running money.
Wow.
Because they always see the money running in your account. In fact, I've gone to tax office before and seen my account downloaded, a whole year statement downloaded into my file by them. So Nigeria has become that
violation. Is that not?
No, it's not. It's not. They are fully backed by law. Do you know that the law that established BVN created an integration for all agencies, even NFIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, gives them access to all bank transactions in the country?
Okay,
so it is just the layman on the street that when somebody play you 419 and you go to the bank and say, this guy has defrauded me, they say the bank cannot do anything. There's a bank customer confidentiality. But if you go to the proper authority like EFCC or the courts can order a freezing of that account and the download of all the information in that account for that case to be resolved. You understand? So it's you that don't have the power, but they have the power. They are the law. They are the government. Yes,
okay, sir. Yeah. Secondly, when you're you'll be running your company at the side. However, you want to, begin to see it grow. Like, how do you manage the number of staff to use? That's, the number of jobs. You were saying that there are some things that you need to let go for others to do, and others you do yourself. So how do you know that when to let go of something or you want others to? Because your portfolio will be
employment,
and you are thinking of the running for.
Yes, employment is not the first thing when you are trying to outsource. When you are trying to delegate, employment is not the first thing. Okay, so for example, when we started, I employed the first person as an assistant, so that all these low-hanging jobs she can do, but there are things that needed to be done, like the website, like social media marketing. I started early with all of those, but I didn't have to employ people to do them. All right. like the design for brochures, like the email marketing, like the telemarketing, the phone calls to cold calls to potential customers. I didn't have to employ people to do most of those things. So the point is, you can bunch things into tasks and find people that can do them for fees, and you're not owing them monthly salary, so that your wage bill is kept tight, because your wage bill will repeat itself every month. So if you pick somebody on for 100K, that's 1.2 million commitment immediately. You understand? So you're not going to say because you now need more work done, you pick another place for another 1.2 million. No, you just burn yourself out very quickly, right? So once you've done that, if you see that there's a lot that is overwhelming you, you want to start giving it out. Give it out in packets, in packages. I've done projects where I bring in people to come and work with Excel, come and work with certain software, come and work with this. I pay them 5K per day, for example, and I give them piece of work to do. And then when it's done, they're not my employees. It's done. It's over, right? And so on and so forth. So you can adopt that approach on, and then you probably see that you are getting more involved in customer presentations, your site scoping, proposal writing, and you're no longer having time to book your own meetings, to write certain proposals, or to send certain emails. You can have somebody as an assistant who can learn under you and be taking some of those things off you and be creating reminders. If you have that, and then you outsource the other things along the way, then you can now employ direct labor for projects. So if I pick up a project and I employ maybe 2 people for that project, and the client's revenue from the clients is paying their wages, I can take some overhead tasks into that those team members, like giving them a central role as well as a site-specific customer-facing role, and they can be paid for by that contract from the customer. So those are some smart ways to navigate that, hiring everybody and having a huge overhead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Lillian, your hand was up.
Okay, thank you for today's class. My question is on pricing when doing an invoice for the client. Actually, I have a cleaning outfit on the side while I'm still in employment, but I ran into the challenge actually to know exactly how to cost my job. So I actually lost a client because I let's say, yes. So I kept on calling the client, it's negotiable and all of that, and he was like, it was too high, and he wasn't interested anymore. So I wanted to know the criteria for pricing.
Okay, that's a bit complex for the service industry. In service industry, you can have prices at every level. Okay. What I have done, a few rules I have lived by, I can share with you. One, try to develop specific, detailed service levels before you get to price. Be very lucid in your information about what the customer should expect, and let that be upfront. If it is cleaning the customer wants, and say that you come and quote for cleaning, I would use 18 to 20 pages to describe what I consider cleaning after I've reviewed his spaces and his requirements. And then I will put the kind of price that will be comfortable for that job. And when I'm putting prices, I also use a thorough breakdown. For example, I don't put one lump sum for staffing as a rate for staff. No, I break it down into the staff take home, the taxation, the group life, the pension, the HMO, the everything, the PPEs, the uniform, so I can break it all into like 10 items, so that by the time he sees my breakdown, even if he ends up with 85,000 per cleaner, he is not going to just shush me off. Because when he sees the next person who submits a quote for 35,000 per cleaner, for example, and mine is 85,000 per cleaner, there are certain things I have put in my own proposal that should get him to think, I know my job, I know his needs. Okay? So he will not just go quiet. He will come back and see how he can negotiate. He will now like, others are doing for 35, but of course he knows that it's not 35 service you are giving. And he doesn't want the 35 service that is not explicit on what they are going to deliver. He wants your service, but he doesn't want to pay 85, right? He will be talking with you, right? And that time, the negotiation is more practical because there is a clear spreadsheet that he can begin to punch by himself. We can now talk line by line and see a bottom line, a baseline to arrive at. And then on my own side, I know my minimum acceptable amount. If it's a client that I need to use for business development, right? My minimum acceptable amount can be as close to my actual cost as possible. For example, I provide a meal to all my cleaners every day. I don't quote that into my client's bid, all right? But 500 naira for a plate of food per day for a cleaner added up over a month increases that cleaner's cost to me by almost 15,000, right? Or maybe 12,000 or 13,000. That is a reality that I have to keep in the bottom of my mind because it's my philosophy and my policy in my organization, right? And not every client can afford my service because I don't want to go below a certain standard. Besides, I don't also want to pay below minimum wage. I don't want to break the law because I want to satisfy a client. So I have set that line item and this other line item that I will pay my cleaners a minimum of 30K take home because I'm not even supposed to take any deductible from their 30K. No tax, no pension should be deducted from their 30K. You understand? So because I know those barest minimum, if it's a client that I must keep and I see that his portfolio is big and it can give me leverage to get bigger jobs, I can put that to him and say, this is the minimum I can take from you. You understand what I'm saying? Because I know that if I have that portfolio, I can quote even double that amount to other companies, and I now have the experience, I have the bragging rights, I have the client testimonials to say, pay me this amount. And they will pay me, not knowing that I'm taking half of that amount from my first client.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate this. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. That's it for our evening's our lesson today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you all put in the best efforts in your study for the exam. As we do additional reviews towards the exam, please don't waste the opportunity, okay? Thank you so much and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.